topics with people who don't share your same beliefs. Your host, Sabrina Protic, Ricky Burney, and Joel Holt. Now let's get ready to have that conversation. Uncomfortable Conversations is powered by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship on Facebook.
Good morning. Well, afternoon. Normally this is a morning show, but we are starting in the afternoon. It's Eastern Standard Time, and I have my co-host here. I am Sabrina Protic, and welcome to Uncomfortable Conversations. And boy, I tell you, we had to do some pivoting today, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I've got my co-host here, Joel Holtz. He's the marketing director of Thriving Women Talk, and I am a financial coach and author of the book, Growing Ageless, Think Young and Live Younger. Our mission each week is to encourage, empower our viewers on uncomfortable conversations on personal and social issues that affect all of us. These are the conversations we often put off. We don't want to have them. We just fret about it. And when we don't give it its due justice, sometimes the conversation is not good. But one thing we do know is avoidance is not the answer. We may miss an opportunity to be enlightened and hear someone else's perspectives. Each week, Joel and I choose a non-religious, non-political topic on social issues that encourage our mission, which is to listen and to learn different perspectives and without being biased and without judgment. Today's topic is social issues in sports. What is the impact? And we have someone that has been around the game. Well, actually, I'm going to go into something else for a minute. We had a big event that happened just last year with Mr. George Floyd. He was 46 years old, a Black man who was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota, while being arrested allegedly for passing a counterfeit bill. And these are just some of the uncomfortable conversations and questions and topics that we call that a social issue. Should that be discussed among our sports icons? Should athletes have the right to speak out on political or social issues? Are there limits to what they can talk about and where? Do athletes become involved in any of the risky conversations because perhaps maybe it could taint their relationship with fans? Because we know our fans have varying different feelings on topics. Or perhaps it could endanger their popularity status if they speak out on certain social issues. Those are just some of the hot topic type questions that we're going to cover. We're not going to go specifically into a topic, but we want to talk about the issue of the topic and where that weighs out in the sports arena. We're going to go to my co-host, Joel, as he kind of sheds a little bit more light on this topic of sports and social topics. Joel.
There's some research that suggests that through regular school-age kids receive significant opportunities to improve certain social capabilities. At the core, team sports are said to bolster the 5 C's: competence, confidence, connections, character, and caring. At the heart of this is self-esteem, increased sense of self-awareness, which results in better social interactions, stronger relationships, and a higher academic performance. Sports groom athletics to become more aware and involved with social issues because they're empowered by the fans to take the lead and become role models in their communities. So, I mean, to me, I think that, yes, it's sports in general, I think it unifies. It doesn't matter what your, whatever the world has put on you to be classified as a certain different race or whatever. It's all about performance and your talents and your abilities. And those people all come on the same, if you're on the team, you made it. So it doesn't matter what you are. We need you to execute. And so you can get past a lot of those biases and things of that nature. So that's my take on some of that.
Mute here. Excellent. So, Joel, the social implications of school sports are significant for our children, primarily due to the sense of belonging that it provides. We know team sports, a lot of kids are encouraged to do it because it unites us. It teaches them skills on how to cooperate, how to learn, to gel together, make decisions together. There's bonding that occurs. They're taught respect. And so there are certain skill sets that are developed during team sports. Studies have shown that these kids who play school sports are more likely to develop positive friendships and less likely to commit crimes due to the decrease of unsupervised downtime. And I know my husband and I were watching a movie last night called The Grizzlies, and it was about these kids over in the Arctic, that the suicide rate is the highest in the nation. And these kids were taught rugby, and it actually helped save their lives and taught them some skills. And that was a true story. So I can kind of see where that does have a play in unifying and a sense of belonging. Being a part of a school team is unique because there's no single outcome that can be accomplished. It's not an individual, it's a team effort. Regardless of the sport, each game is dependent on the contributions of all team members. It is through the experience that participants cultivate a second family type feeling. We see that strong, close bonding in sports, and it maximizes the potential of the team. Teammates learn to care about each other on the field and off the field. What players remember the most from their athletic participation is the relationship and the celebration that they share together with their teammates. Athletes work together daily in strenuous practices and preparing for these stressful situations, wanting and desiring a positive outcome. In this pressure environment, they build relationships and learn to care about each other. So we have all these positive impacts, but the question is, should there really be, and why wouldn't there be, athletic participation in social issues? So what do you think about that, Joel? We've just heard how positive an impact learning how to live together, work together, and play together as a team, cultivating that family impact. What do you think?
I mean, why wouldn't athletes participate in social issues? Because they get paid. So the people who pay them don't want them to if they want to control the norm. So it's hard to speak out. I mean, when I think of the greatest probably athlete or social, I think of Muhammad Ali. He had the greatest impact. And I think ultimately because, one, he had enough, he was fearless, stood for what he believed in, but he still, to a degree, controlled his, like with boxing. He was a great promoter. He made the draws. Yes, he needed the facilities, but he negotiated those contracts or he worked with, I guess with the promoters. But he was basically a person that was his own industry in terms of boxing, where all those guys got together. It's different now when you have contracts and in different sports like football or basketball or baseball, where you have a contract that someone else is really paying you versus the money comes into them and they give it to you. So it's hard for you to really own a lot of stuff because it's hard to speak out against the status quo or the machine.
I appreciate your perspective on that. And we're getting ready to bring somebody on that's going to help us unpack. Now, today we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation because I've got my cell phone here in front of me because we had some technical issues, and I'm going to introduce this person. So today we've invited Cameron Wembley. He's CEO of KW Growth Holdings, LLC, and former NFL linebacker and defensive end with the Oakland Raiders and the Tennessee Titans, to the show to have this uncomfortable conversation on sports and social justice. Welcome to Uncomfortable Conversations, Cameron. Welcome to our show.
Hey, Sabrina, thanks for having me.
Can you see us, Cameron?
I think you just need to tilt it down a little bit more and a little bit more, and I should be able to see you. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, we've got Cameron Wembley. Perfect. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation with us. Before we go to commercial break, can you share with our viewers, since retiring from professional football, what has been your passion and purpose for your 2021 vision?
Well, I would say my passion and purpose has been in a company called Stadium Status Fitness, where we spend our time connecting people in the health and wellness space with the professionals who provide the services. So that could be anything from massage therapy, chiropractic work, position-specific trainers for different athletes and sports, and just anything in that space that you could think of from a medical or health and wellness, a holistic type of health and wellness perspective or space.
Excellent. Thank you. So positive, and again, contributing to our community in a positive way. So when we come back, Cameron, we're going to talk about your career, your perspectives, and to understand more about sports and social issues. We're going to go to break.
Thriving Women is sponsored by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowerment. And if you're a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a members request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are your membership for mentorship. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
I think we got one. Here we go. Tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? Whoa, whoa, whoa. On a mission to be what I'm destined to be. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I've been through the pain and the sorrow, the struggle is nothing but love. Nothing but love. I'm a soldier, a rider, a ghetto survivor, and all the above. All the above. All the above. All the above. Nothing, see me living my dreams. I done been to the bottom, I done suffered a lot. I deserve to be rich, headed straight to the top. Look how I rap for the block, look how I rap for the hood. I get nothing but love now when I come to the hood. Getting this fortune and fame, money make all of us change. The new Benz is all white, call it John McCain. How the hell could you stop me? Why in the world would you try? I go hard forever, that's just how I'm designed. That's just how I was built. See the look in my eyes, you take all of this from me, and I'm still gonna survive. You get truth from me, but these rappers gon' lie. I'm a part of these streets to the day that I die. I wave high to the haters, man, that I finally done made it. Take a look, and you can tell that I'm destined for greatness. Tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? Whoa, whoa, whoa. On a mission to be what I'm destined to be. Whoa, whoa. Judge me, put your foot in my knife. Picture you living my life. Picture you stuck in a cell. Picture you wasting your life. Picture you facing a charge. Picture you beating the odds. Picture you willing to bleed. Picture you wearing the scar. Thank you for making me struggle. Thank you for making me grind. I perfected my hustle. Tell me the world ain't mine. You've been seeing me lately. I'm a miracle, baby. I refuse to lose. This was the ghetto that made me. I put that on my father. Trying to hope for tomorrow. When I think that I can, I envision Obama, I envision them diamonds, I envision Ferraris. If the world was perfect, all my niggas behind me. Ain't you happy I made it? Man, I'm making a statement. Take a look, and you can tell that I'm destined for greatness. Tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? Whoa, whoa, whoa. On a mission to be what I'm destined to be. Whoa, whoa.
Man, Cameron, how many sacks did you have on Cutler? I'm gonna take that Bears picture off my wall.
Well,
Like
I think I actually was able to get 4 sacks in the game.
I'm like that. Yeah, like is that 4 sacks?
Yeah, no, he was a great guy, a great competitor to play against. So those are some good memories. It seems like it was so long ago now, but it's been 5 years since I've been playing. So
yeah,
it's good to look at those highlights and reminisce.
that's good stuff.
Wow, nice. So Cameron, we're going to take you a little bit down memory lane here. And, you know, we want to remind everybody that you are a former linebacker with the NFL. And like you said, it's been 5 years now, but I know you were smiling when you were seeing the video, but we're going to show 10 pictures now. And we want you to kind of chime in on these pictures. We're going to just kind of show them a little bit. And as the feeling hits you, make a comment. But some people believe that athletes are also citizens, and they, you know, the benefits of participation in social issues should be there, while others feel like it shouldn't. So let's just kind of see what's going on in the world of Cameron.
Can you pull the camera back just a little bit? Okay, I'm able to see more now.
Okay, go ahead. We kind of got a picture there. Do you see that picture, Cameron?
You have to turn it a little. Okay. I can't see the picture yet. So that's the Olympics, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So I think, you know, from that time until now, obviously there are a lot of things today in the media that we're discussing, and that picture that was so relevant back then is, I believe, still relevant to this day. And when we were looking at some of the statistics in sports, we see that really when it comes to diversity and inclusion, in some cases, the change has been insignificant throughout time. So I think it's just an ongoing conversation where people are really trying to become educated and really trying to continue these discussions. But I think there is a lot of encouragement in regards to in sports with diversity. Obviously, women played a really huge role in the NFL this year, and there were a number of coaches who were assistant coaches that were prominent, and I think the conversation has turned to head coaches and more opportunities for head coaches. So those are ongoing conversations, as well as different things with players and things of that nature with their contract and free agency. But another thing, I think in the business space, obviously, we're looking at conversations with the high-level executives and them having more conversations in regards to diversity and inclusion. So I think it is something that's on everybody's radar and is being discussed. Now, it's really more about those changes happening at the top of the house, and then at the entry level, but also being able to retain that talent and having them really sewn into the fabric of the company and feeling like they really have a place and they belong there. So I definitely see that picture is still relevant today in sports as well as other spaces.
Excellent. We'll see what else we have going here. Can you see that picture?
Is that Muhammad Ali?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, yeah, Muhammad Ali is definitely an iconic figure in sports. A lot of people believe he's like the greatest of all times or one of the greatest athletes of all time. So he was definitely vocal in a lot of issues that he was facing during that time that we're still to this day having discussions on it. When we think about diversity and inclusion, I think of his daughter, who has really been a trailblazer for women in a lot of ways, and she's doing really well. I see she has a product where she sells her spice, and I think a lot of people have a way to express and put their voice out there in a way that they may not have had in the past with platforms such as social media and podcasts and things of that nature. So I think when you look at his legacy, his daughter Layla is doing a great job of carrying on his legacy and really doing some awesome things.
And obviously we chose this picture of Muhammad Ali because he did speak out on social issues, and that that kind of followed him because he was outspoken. But you're right. I mean, he kind of trailblazed that. Let's see what else we have here. Can you see that? I'm gonna pull you in a little close.
Okay. See, is that from? I think there was a recent movie that was out about is it A Long Night in Miami? Are those?
That's Muhammad Ali when a lot of the other notable African American players were supporting Muhammad Ali's decision to not go into the draft. So Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, some of the players from Kansas City, from the Packers, and Bill Russell's next to him is also.
Yeah, all of those notable people within sports, and personally playing with the Cleveland Browns, I've been able to meet and have discussions with Jim Brown, who's still really active, I would say, and just being able to speak out for different things that are relevant to minorities in sports and minorities in general. So I think that's a real powerful photo. And I think it really shows that athletes, when they bring their voices together and utilize the platforms that they've been given, can affect change.
Love it. Love it. Again, inclusion and the masses. I mean, that's powerful. That's a powerful room in that picture. What else do we have here? Oh, we know who that is. Take a knee. Take a knee.
So I think that photo happened during the time I was playing in the NFL, and I think at that time, Colin received a lot of criticism. But I think today, with a lot of things that have been put out there, I think that it's showing that there was relevance, obviously, to his position. And the NFL has since come out and made a statement that, obviously the things that he was talking about at that time were and are occurring. And I think the NFL has really done something social justice types of things. They put aside pools of money, millions of dollars that they're dispersing out into the community to really help address some of these conversations that occurred. And even with the name of this show, I think for me, I get comfortable being uncomfortable because being in the NFL, I often, get addressed or we discuss a lot of these things that have happened throughout time. And this is one of those things that I think was a very big moment in history. So I think that he, when he took that position, put himself in the conversation with a lot of iconic leaders throughout history. So he really took a huge risk in doing that. And then even at the time when Nike did the campaign behind Colin Kaepernick, I think that was really something that made a statement to a lot of people.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's see what else we have here. And thank you for those perspectives on that, because that was a really big issue. Oh, we know who that is. Can you see that?
Yes. Well, I mean, there's a lot really in this picture. Obviously, and I think for me, being an athlete, I played basketball. I wasn't a college or professional player. So I think, the NBA is very progressive when it comes to social justice types of issues. And I think LeBron has been a leader in that space for so long. And obviously, Kobe might arguably be the best or one of the greatest players who've ever played the game. So I think that really affected a lot of people when, the accident happened with him. And I think he was really becoming a voice when it comes to women's basketball because of his daughter. And, I'm a girl dad. So I think for me, that was something that definitely made me cherish my relationship with my daughters even more. And a lot of discussion has come from different things that have happened while he was in the league. But I definitely think that, he was such an iconic figure for the game. And then obviously with the social justice shirt on right there, I think it just, again, reiterates how big of a platform athletes have. And, even with fans, I think sometimes fans just want to see the game, and they're not necessarily wanting to get political or things of that nature. But as a player, when you're in the league or, at the professional level, you're not immune to any of the things that are going on. Like, you can see the news, and you have family members, I think, who are affected by this. We have, women and children who I believe are affected by the different things that happen in society. So I think, athletes, when they get the opportunity like that to be able to step up and be a voice for those who don't have a voice, I think it can make a huge impact in the community.
Cameron, would you say that that's a risky move, though?
Well, I think that there is risk, obviously, from the previous picture with Colin Kaepernick. He's no longer in the NFL. So whenever you do choose to make, a statement like that, there can be some consequences. And I think it's one of those things where, he's standing up for what he believes in. And if you feel that convicted, it's one of those things where, it's one of those things where a lot of people are uncomfortable really seeing and talking about these things. So it really forces a lot of us to have these discussions with our families and saying, hey, this is still something that's prevalent in society, and we're still working on this. And it's going to be a lot of work, but I think a lot of encouraging things have happened since then, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Thank you for those perspectives. Very, very deep conversation here. Let's see what else we have here. Joel, what do we have here?
Is that LeBron and players in the NBA?
Yeah, that was last year. The Lakers, I think, just taking a knee. LeBron, AD. Yeah, that was last year. Vogel, all those guys.
And they have vote on there. Was that say vote on there? What does that say?
Yeah, vote.
Vote. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing I think. Just with the election that just occurred, which is historic, obviously, to be able to have a vice president who is a woman. I think for a lot of my colleagues who are women, and I've invested in women's startups, and I have a lot of really good relationships with women who are professionals. I think that within our community to go out and vote and have people become educated on the legislation that affects their community has been a big thing. And I think it's got more attention recently because of things that players like LeBron have done. So I definitely think that it's vital to having a lot of the conversations that maybe have been done at the dinner table, but now they're starting to show up in a lot more places.
Thank you so much. We'll have one more picture. Joel, what is that?
That's the NASCAR driver that made a stance. I forget his name.
Is it Bubba Wallace?
Yeah,
Bubba Wallace. Yeah.
Yeah, Wallace. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think for different sports, there's been that question of, can we do more when it comes to diversity and inclusion? I personally happen to know football players who have been a part of NASCAR. Even Walter Payton had a team. And then as recently as Alvin Kamara, who's invested in the NASCAR. And there's a lady named Sheena Quick Davis who has a company called Quick Out the Blocks where she covers sports. And she did a stint with NASCAR as well. So I've seen people get more involved with NASCAR, and I believe they just had a controversial thing that happened with the Confederate flag, perhaps. So I think, the conversations are really far reaching and they're touching everything. And to see, people go into this space and speak up and be a voice for people who may not have been heard and previous things that have gone on throughout that particular sport and history, I think we're starting to see a lot more of that. So to have that conversation, I think that's how you start that change and ignite that change. So like I said recently with Alvin Kamara, who's one of the premier running backs in the NFL, to be active and being a part of NASCAR, I think speaks volumes of different things in regards to opportunities that may be out there to really lift up your voice and try to affect change.
Powerful. And I have to say, I was unaware that a lot of these players, even in a NASCAR, took a stand. I Can't Breathe is on his shirt. We saw it on Kobe Bryant. So I had no idea that there were some voices of social issues among athletes. And we want to thank you, Cameron, for being so aware, not only in the NFL, but the basketball, the racing. So you're keeping abreast of everything. You have your finger on the pulse. And we're so blessed to have you as a guest on our show today. We're going to take a sponsor break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about these issues.
Thriving Women is sponsored by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowering. And if you're a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a member's request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are your membership for mentorship. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
Michael Jordan reinvented basketball. His unparalleled grace, athleticism, and determination cementing him as the greatest. A Hall of Famer with a lasting legacy he's only added to off the court.
Mr. Jordan.
We joined Jordan to get a look at the first of 2 medical clinics he's fully funded in Charlotte, North Carolina, to help provide access to underserved communities in the area. It's opening, bringing the sports great to tears.
As you can see, it's a very emotional thing for me.
The Michael Jordan Family Medical Clinic. What do you think?
I'm very proud of it. I mean, the Michael Jordan aspect of things is okay. It is what it is. I think what drives me is that I know this clinic is needed within the community and it's going to provide a certain service.
Giving back and also using his voice for change. A reversal from his days on the court.
You developed a reputation for being, shall we say, apolitical, not wading into a lot of the waters of social issues. Over the last few years, though, I've noticed that you've spoken out on unarmed black people being shot. You've talked about the causes and effects of poverty. You've talked about healthcare disparities.
Sure.
What changed? Why are you more outspoken now than you used to be?
You know, when I was playing, my vision and my tunnel vision was my craft. I was a professional basketball player, and I tried to do that the best I could. Now I have more time to understand things around me, understand causes, understand, issues and, problems, and commit, my voice, my financial support to.
Looking back on your playing days, do you wish that perhaps you had been more vocal about certain things?
I never look back and change things for whatever reason.
He has stayed close to the sport. Jordan is now the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets.
What do you think about professional sports players now who use their platforms for activism?
I think it's great if they understand the causes. Obviously, if they feel their voice matters, great. And I support that.
But speaking out has recently created controversy in the NBA. LeBron James facing criticism for weighing in on the feud between the league and China over the protests in Hong Kong. Jordan declining to comment on the topic, citing pending litigation first starting in 2012 over the improper use of his name in the country. The legend also weighing in on college athletes being paid to play, a bill just signed into law in California with other states following suit.
Do you think they should be paid?
I think they should be paid some portion of money so that their basic needs are taken care of. There's some complexity there that I think the NCAA is going to have to figure out. Are they entitled to some compensation? Yes. What is that number? I don't think anyone knows.
Welcome back to Uncomfortable Conversation. And we are going to go a little bit deeper with this. Our conversation is social justice and sports. And we're going to introduce some of our guests today. We have former NFL linebacker Cameron Wembley, which you have seen him. We have Gary Rogers, former Canadian football linebacker. Hi, Gary. Welcome to the show. We have David Hart, CEO of M3 Linked Florida. Hi, David, and welcome all of you to the show.
Thanks for having us, Sabrina.
You're welcome. Joel, you want to kind of kick this off?
All right, we have a segment here where it says, we agree that team sports provide an admirable model for how our society, that is, struggles with racial division and can achieve racial harmony. African Americans, Latinos, whites, and Asians work harmoniously in everyday contact in team sports. They know each other as real people, not stereotypes. They use the same locker room, bleed together in a game like football, and strive for a larger goal. Familiarity breeds friendships and acceptance. Informed athletes involved and participating in the larger society can play a positive role. Part of what gives athletes their profile and power is the appeal of their sports to a massive audience, not distracted by off-field issues at a game. So the question is, the uncomfortable conversation starts with this question: where should that line be drawn?
Gary? I'm sorry, Joel.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the line, where's the line drawn, I guess, between part of what gives athletes their profile and power, the appeal to sports to a massive audience, but not being distracted by off-field issues of the game? So where do you think the line is to be drawn? That's the question being asked. And anybody want to take a stab at that, whether it's Gary, David, or Cameron?
Cameron said he wanted to say something, and then we'll go to David.
Yeah, I think when you're a professional athlete, you're really focused in, like Michael Jordan said in the interview, as a player, he was focused on his craft, and to perform at a very high and elite level, it takes a lot of time and attention and energy. So in a lot of cases, I think players may not necessarily feel as educated as they need to really take a stand or speak up and make a statement on the things that may be happening. But I definitely think that if a player is educated and they have the platform and they feel like speaking up is going to make an impact, I would encourage them to utilize that platform to make a positive change. And there may be some risk associated with that. So each player has to kind of weigh that on his own and make his decision or her decision.
That's a good take. I was going to ask you, Cameron, in terms of, it makes me think of too, like if you're focused on being elite, because there's only a small percentage of players or people who play in these leagues, right? Do you even have the time or that distraction, in a sense, to even devote that type of mental energy? Because you're too busy trying to devote the time you need to stay focused at your craft just for your livelihood.
Well, I think even like what Michael said, when he's now at this point in his career where he can have that give back component, I think millennials and the younger players coming in are very aware of a lot of these things because they're seeing it right now in so many ways, and they're learning about it in school. Obviously, as our education has been affected by the pandemic. So I think in a lot of cases, the education system, a lot of companies are becoming more educated, including the athletes. So I think these issues are things that they're aware of, they see it. But obviously when you make it to a professional level, you're being paid by an organization. So I think that's one of those things where you have to understand where you're working and what your goals and your objectives are as an athlete. And obviously your primary focus is to go in and perform and to win games. So I would say with that, if a player is knowledgeable on a particular topic and that's their give back and that's an area where they feel passionate, I would encourage them to speak if they feel impelled to speak. So that's my take.
Thanks for that, Cameron.
You're welcome.
Oh, great. You know what? We have nothing but perspectives, and we really appreciate that. I want to go to our panel here and see if we can get some input from Gary, David Hart, and Cameron. So our mission is to listen and to learn and to reflect. So if you guys can give us like a 2-minute answer, that would be great. Let's go with Gary. Should sports just be sports and social issues just be social issues? Should we separate them, Gary?
Man, I'll tell you what, I've been sitting here wanting to talk, but I'm just going to just be patient and quiet. But this is a big ball of a mess of things to talk about. Not a mess necessarily, but so many different avenues you can go in. And like bottom line for me, when I hear a lot of this stuff, and I know we can't talk politics, although I saw a picture of politics, and you know, you don't want to go religion, but man, that faith part of my life has a lot to say about the foundation of some of my answers. But I'm not going to necessarily go there. I probably have a minute to go, and that's okay. But the bottom line, I think, is this. Who is paying that paycheck? And are they okay with me using the time that they pay me to talk about things that matter to me, my family, my belief in this area, maybe a side business, maybe a book I just wrote, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if I'm really informed or less informed with a certain subject. I think it has to do with my employer. And if I have something to say, I should go to my employer and say, hey, Billy, or whoever it is, hey, is it okay? I have something's going on with my family with such and such. Do you mind if I wear something to show that maybe before the game? Or do you mind if however, whatever they say, guess what? That's the answer. Sorry, if I don't like it, I should own my own team and play for myself. That's kind of my bottom line answer.
Gary, thank you so much for that. Cameron, you kind of talked a little bit about that. Should they be separated briefly?
Well, I think you made some really good points. Obviously, if you're the owner of a team, you're looking for a particular product. And I would say that things that I've been involved in, players go to the ownership and they speak to the owners. And obviously with things that have happened during the pandemic, we've seen where teams were active and being a part of the social justice conversation, even here in Tampa Bay with the Rays, basically being a part of the Breonna Taylor discussion prior to their season. So I think what he mentioned is like going to the owner or going to leadership within the organization and discussing what your thoughts are and seeing if there's some way that the team or the organization can address that, I think is a good idea.
Great. Coming from two players, CFL, NFL. We're going to ask another question. We have David Hart, as we mentioned, CEO of M3 Linked. He's a fan, so we want to get the fan perspective. Do you think athletes should speak on social issues during interviews, David? What do you think?
I think they should, but they should not dominate the conversation of the interview. If the interview is talking about the performance in the game, the interview should be hijacked by a separate issue. The way I look at this is, athletes are kind of like celebrities or famous folks. And if you look at a movie star, they're not going to stop in the middle of a movie and discuss social justice issues. They're going to talk about it off screen at a separate thing or a separate press conference. And, it's kind of similar, I would say, for sports or professional athletes, that the patrons are paying to go see the game. If they have a social issue, take it in the appropriate time or setting, and also go further than just making a statement on the field. What else are they doing to support that social justice? Are they involved in a non-for-profit? Are they making a donation to help? What other types of things can they be doing? But, they shouldn't allow the social justice to distract from the primary purpose of what the fan or the interview is supposed to be about. I mean, think about it. If there's an interview talking about somebody being the MVP of a game, it can get distracting and turn folks off because they want to hear about the game. So let's, don't lose focus on the primary purpose. There's a place, there's a time and a place for everything, and finding and balancing that so that it's not overwhelming is the secret. And in today's cancel culture, I think athletes need to be careful because you never know when the crowd's going to turn on you, as we've seen with many other celebrities.
And it can get quite dicey. So let's hear from Cameron on that. What are your thoughts on that, Cameron, in terms of speaking on social issues during interviews?
Well, when we were going into the league, they told us that whenever we get the opportunity to do an interview, think about our brand, right? So with the NCAA, name, image, and likeness is such a huge topic. And I think as a player, in a lot of cases, like separating who you are as a person from who you are in that celebrity space can be challenging, especially if you're feeling those effects of things that are happening within your community. But I think that the NFL, the NBA, with players being vocal and utilizing their platforms, I've seen them do it in a lot of creative ways outside of the interviews, and I've seen the teams also utilize their social media platforms to discuss narratives with individual players who have experienced different things when it comes to social justice issues. So I think that those leagues are starting to be more active and really engaging with the fans and letting them know that, hey, this person may be a celebrity that you see, but they're still a person, right? And I think when you look at the culture of the players, which is predominantly minorities in some sports, I think that there should be some representation about things that are happening that affect not just the players but also our society. So then again, like I said, during the interview, it's also about timing and understanding, what time may be the best time to do or speak about certain things. And, sometimes you may disagree with when the right time is, and then that creates a big discussion. So like I said, for every player, there's a risk that comes with that. And as a celebrity, people are going to like you if you're saying the right things. People are going to still dislike you if you're saying the right things. So I think it's one of those things. Each player is different. Each player is going to utilize the platform kind of the way that they see fit for them. So I think they just have to be understanding that there can be some consequences when you do utilize that platform to speak on touchy subjects and controversial issues.
And so speaking of that, and I'm going to go to Gary on this question, should an athlete use his influence to raise an awareness of particular social issues? Gary?
I mean, if an athlete is excited about something, if something has affected them individually, their family, then, I mean, why not? Why not do it? But I, again, go back to my last answer. I don't believe it should be during a job that you're being paid from an owner or, you know, a group of people that if they don't want you to be, they want you to play football, play your sport or whatever it is. And so if you are excited about it, and you know what, I feel like, yeah, do something about it. Just do it on your own time. I mean, that's like with anything really. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete or a banker or selling life insurance or whatever it is. I mean, unless you're getting paid, unless you're not getting paid a salary, you should do it on your own time. But I say yes, if you're excited about something, if you believe in something, then you know what? Like, I believe in this faith thing, even though we're not supposed to talk about faith. And I say, no, I'm not getting paid, so that's okay. But you do it. If you get excited about it, do it. Fine. Be creative. Do it on your time and go for it.
Thank you, Gary. Gary speaks from the heart. By the way, check your game. That's what he's all about when he talks about the thing you can't talk about that he wants to talk about. Go to checkyourgame.com and check Gary out. Cameron, what do you think? Should you use your influence to speak out on social issues?
Well, I think you should. And I think it's one of those things where you have to understand how it's going to affect your name, image, and likeness, and how it may affect other people, because we do have more ways to be able to reach fans and engage with fans. So even if you're not getting interviewed, I think you still have the opportunity to get your voice out there. And in a lot of cases, players are already connected to their give back. So when the team is vetting you and bringing you in, I think they have a really good understanding of who it is that they're bringing in. And obviously the owners want to be able to make sure that their players are performing at a high level. So that would be in the organization's best interest to try to eliminate distractions off the field. But I mean, things happen. Life happens, and we just have to deal with it the best way that we can. But I do think in a lot of cases when things are happening, people do look for athletes or people with a platform to speak when they have the opportunity to speak. So again, if you're educated and you feel compelled to speak out for something that matters to you, in a lot of cases we've seen owners support the players. So I think it just depends on the timing, who you are, what the issue is, and trying to find the best solution for that.
Okay, so speaking of you got this strong vibe and this feel for what you're, that's getting at you, like Gary said and Cameron. Should we draw the line though on certain topics? I'm going to go to David Hart. Being a fan, is there a taboo? Are there certain no-nos and topics and social issues that they should stay away from? Time, place, topic. David?
I think all topics in today's environment are going to be social no-no for somebody. And picking, I think athletes need to pick their topics and the location carefully, because you don't want to distract from the purpose of what the athlete is being paid to do. So, I mean, finding an offline or off-field venue to speak is probably the way I would suggest or would want to see it, because the last thing anyone wants, the last thing a true diehard fan wants is to tune into their favorite game and have a distraction. Your fans are paying to go to the game or watching it. And there are plenty of other avenues, especially with all the social media outlets that are available to everyone, to really get their message out. And it could be probably get their message out to a larger fan base. But I think Cameron and Gary mentioned it, that there is a brand reputation that you don't want to damage. And, in today's environment, we seem to be walking on eggshells on particular topics, not knowing what that may be. So being smart and taking it offline, maybe using a social media platform, I would think would be the better venue for that.
You heard it from a fan. Now let's hear it from an NFL player. Cameron, are there taboo subject matters?
I think they're difficult for people to address and talk about, definitely. So I think that with that being said, just thinking about what you're going to say before you say it, because as athletes, it, in a lot of cases, will have an effect on people. And there are people who are avid fans who will react to that. So I think we've seen cases of that just within spaces where people have a huge platform and they're making statements, and there's a reaction to that. So I think that there's a responsibility that comes along with that. I think the NFL does a great job of speaking with its players about the different things that may come up and how to deal with that. So obviously every player has the opportunity to get some sort of media training, if you will. And I believe every organization likely has a chain of command or a way to be able to go and discuss that if a player feels very strongly about it. And it may be something that is taboo, or maybe something that could potentially damage your brand or the organization's brand.
Thank you so much for that, Cameron. Great perspectives. We had to hear these. We heard it on all different levels. We're going to go to break, and when we come back, we'll wrap this show up on social justice issues and sports.
Thriving Women is sponsored by the Trendsetter Mentor Group, an exclusive membership for mentorship. TMG is an exclusive Facebook mentoring membership for thriving entrepreneurs with a culture of caring and sharing. TMG's mission is mentoring, inspiring, and empowering. And if you're a thriving entrepreneur and inspired to surround yourself with like-minded peak performers, join TMG's exclusive membership group on Facebook by sending a members request to the Trendsetter Mentor Group. We are your membership for mentorship. Back to Thriving Women Talk.
Any athlete that's an American citizen has a voice. You know, we have a vote, and we also have a voice. The Olympics in 1968 occurred just a couple of months after Dr. King was assassinated. And at that time, I wasn't feeling very, very patriotic. I felt that America really was not living up to what it was supposed to be. I got a lot of pushback about being an activist because someone said recently to LeBron James that he should shut up and dribble.
So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
And that was a ridiculous statement. And that same mentality and attitude was directed at me when I had things to say. But LeBron spoke up, I spoke up, Muhammad Ali spoke up, and people like us will continue to speak up. The fact that we have athletes like LeBron James using their voice and their platform to make an impact on what's going on in his community and in his country, I think this is a wonderful thing. I don't think anyone should complain about that. Taking a knee is a very peaceful demonstration about a very serious subject. Colin Kaepernick and the people who were inspired by him wanted to draw attention to the fact that Black Americans get killed by police officers randomly and for no good reason way too often. This is a reality. This is not something that Colin Kaepernick dreamed up. And the fact that people want to say that he's disrespecting the flag is trying to change the subject. He's involved in a peaceful protest, and it's about a very serious subject that concerns people, especially Black parents, who don't want to see their kids shot down in the street for no good reason. So in trying to make it about disrespecting the flag, people who talk like that don't want people talking about the fact that police officers need to change their tactics in dealing with innocent, unarmed people who are being shot for no good reason. This issue has to be dealt with. I hope that people are listening to the message and not dealing with all of the distractions.
Well, I don't think we could have said it any better than Kareem. He really kind of nailed it. He was right in the thick of things. That I hadn't heard about that comment that was made, shut up and dribble. Boy, I tell you, that could raise the hairs on the back of your neck. But as we wrap this show up, Joel, we want to maybe weigh in from each of our guests and get their opinions on this. Do you think that having a voice in sports and social issues, does it impact your enjoyment of the game? Let me go to David Hart on that one. Is that disturbing and distracting you from enjoying the game, David?
No, it doesn't. But I think it's a balance so that the voice is not drowning out what folks are tuning in to watch. It's a balance, like everything else in a balance, and but it's not drowning things out.
Excellent.
I think a lot of the drowning out is all the hype made about it versus there's more hype after the fact than the fact.
Okay. Heard it from a fan. So it's okay. It's okay to talk about what gets you, but like Gary said, on your own time. But Gary, coming to you, do you think favorably or less favorably on those athletes that speak out? I think you kind of alluded to it. Let's say they do it on their own time. What do you think about that?
Do it on your own time. But you know what? I just want to say this. If this is the last show, if these are my last words, you never know, right? Because we never know when it's our time. There are weeds we can pull, like in our yards. We got weeds. If you want to pull the weed, that's great, but it doesn't fix it. You got to get down to the root of it. And so what I'm listening to all this conversation, and it's like, what's the root of all this stuff? And I got to go with this. Sabrina and Joel and Dave and Cameron, I'm going to go with this. What's the greatest commandment? What's God want us to do? He says, love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And the second thing is love your neighbor. With those two things, guess what? We're not talking about this stuff. People get along. We love each other. We're caring for each other. That is the root of what I see this world is coming to. And I just have to share that. Sports or not, man, we're all people. And we're all created by the same person, the same God. And he gave us all talents and gave us all these really amazing things. And whether we look different, we're tall, we're short, we're black, we're white, it doesn't matter. God's like, listen, love each other. Love each other. So, sorry, I might get kicked off for that, but those are my last words.
Gary, thank you. That's why we have you back time and time again, and you'll be back. Cameron, let's kind of wrap the last question up with you. Do you think that being an activist as an athlete makes a difference, or is it just a distraction to people who really love the game?
Well, I think it depends on your perspective. I think about myself and kids nowadays when they're growing up and they're watching athletes play, and they're also seeing things that are happening at school, things that they're happening in their homes and in their communities. So if they aspire to be like an athlete, and the athlete is speaking about the things that directly affect them in a way that may help them out and benefit them, I can see that as a good thing. I also think that we all now are having these discussions, and that's a good thing. So I learn from people who look different than I look, who think different than I think. And I think, it may be challenging at times, but I think that's how we all get a better perspective. And for me, ongoing education definitely is something that I think is going to add more value as companies are becoming more diverse. And it's these conversations just like this where we can learn from one another and we can fellowship and grow together, because we're all in this together, so we're all U.S. citizens, and hopefully we're all here for a while and have healthy lives and enjoy one another. But we are in a competitive space when it comes to sports and just within business as well. So I think that just having respect for one another and learning from one another, we can really take something from people who are not like us and really learn to grow and improve and continue to give back to our communities.
Well said, Cameron. All of you. And I'd like to hear from Joel. I know he's been chomping at the bit. He's wanted to weigh in. It's his time. So Joel, if you could kind of wrap it up. I know Gary's like, yeah, we get to hear from Joel. Give us your closing remarks, Joel.
In my humble opinion, and it is humble, I feel that really it's a lot of rhetoric to me because it's directing it to the wrong people. Like David, I'm watching TV and I got to get slammed with all these ads about violence and this and this. That needs to go to the lawmakers, the heads of the police departments. It has to go to those people. That's where the change is made. Those are the ones who can change things that are going on. Yes, we can weigh in and say all this stuff, and we can have revolutions and demonstrations and all that stuff. But where do you typically do that at? You're trying to go to City Hall. You're trying to go to the the places, those who actually will make those changes in those laws, because that's, to me, will actually make some change happen. Because what has really transpired since, not necessarily a lot, but when Kaepernick did what he did, it made so much of a big deal that those people had to start doing something. I mean, the technology has been out there that everybody sees what's going on. You can't hide the stuff that's going on now. So I just felt that, it has to be directed more towards those who actually are making and changing those laws. If we get to those people, that's where we make a lot of those changes.
Awesome. You know what? And you came at this from a whole different perspective, Joel. So thank you very much. We want to thank all of our guests. Again, Cameron Wembley, former NFL player and linebacker. Thank you so much. We overcame the hump here, and we still got you on. We want to thank Gary Rogers, former CFL player, and checkyourgame.com. A big heart. Thank you so much for being on the show with us. And David Hart, always a pleasure to have you on the show. M3 Link. He's right here in the Tampa Bay community, as well as Gary Rogers. So we want to thank all of you once again for joining in to Uncomfortable Conversation. This was really quite dicey today because we talked about something that we see, but we don't want to talk about, like the elephant in the room, the pros and cons. And we didn't really resolve it. We just put the issues out there and gave our perspectives, and respectfully, on these uncomfortable conversations. So tune in to us next week, Uncomfortable Conversation. We want to thank our engineer, Alan Chafin, and our show producer, Daryl A. Johnson, who makes this possible for us every week. I'm Sabrina Prodick with this beautiful panel. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining Uncomfortable Conversation.
Thank you.
Take